here today taking a look at this Troy Bilt TB42 automatic. We're going to replace the drive belt and the idler pulleys on it. I'll show you how to easiest do that on this model. Now this is the Hydrostatic. It's an automatic shifter on the left hand side. I'll show you a little bit more about that here shortly. Hit that like and subscribe button as we go along if you enjoy the content. As I said again on this Troy Bilt, it's a TB42 and it's the hydrostatic version, meaning if we come over here, see the forward and reverse, it's not geared. It's got different adjustments forward and backwards depending on where the handle is. That's how fast it goes, both forward and backwards. It is a true hydrostatic on this version. There are some that claim to be that are not. They're more like a CVT type. Come take a look directly beyond the right hand tire. We can clearly see that the belt is off of where it should be. It should be on that pulley there, and it's off of that pulley. In between the pulley and the fan now is where the belt is sitting. It's going to need replaced. They've tried to continue to run it afterwards, and I'm sure it's ruined the belt at some point. And the idler pulleys, when we spin them, are extremely bad shape. Under here you can clearly see the idler pulley up top. That one actually doesn't sound horrible. I guess it was that one that in the back that I spun originally. Don't sound too bad, but we're going to replace them while we're here anyway. To start everything off, we'll just go ahead and remove the keeper. It just sits in a hole here. This is the belt keeper. I just kind of squeeze, and then you move it over and out of the way. Now you can just pull the belt straight off. And then we can remove the pin from the front here. And that front hanger just pushes straight out also. Looks pretty good shape there, don't it? Next we've got a bracket and then a hanger on each side. They come out with just one pin. If you kind of lift up and move the hanger towards you, it'll allow you to get that pin out. Push the hanger out of the way, and the bracket's free also. As we go to move this out, we'll have to hold these brackets up. We've got the hanger on the other side, same thing, lift it up, kind of pull it towards you, take out your pin. Push your hanger out of the way. And then we're going to lift up both of these and pull the deck this way, just enough to get access to our deck engagement cable. And we'll go ahead and pull that one straight out also. And then you can remove the cable. You grab onto the idler and move it. Just move it kind of back. You can get a little better view there. If you grab the idler right here, pull it back, you can remove that cable from there. And then it comes up and out. So basically, move it straight up and it comes out of the hanger at the front here. Now that the deck is free, again, you'll just hold those up and you'll pull the deck straight out. Like to jack up the front to get a little better access. Take out your hanger bracket, it just comes straight out. Now that we've got everything off, you can clearly see the routing of the belt going all the way back. And you can see where it's not around our pulley at the back. Both idler pulleys. And then our belt up front on the PTO. We will just use a 5/8. Come straight down. That adapter just fell off, but the adapter came off just from like this. This is how it goes back on, like such. We're going to need both a 14mm socket and a wrench in order to get to this. I like to start off by coming up behind and getting up top to the bolt. It's in there somewhere. There we go, I think I got it. Nope, not quite. There it is. And the whole thing comes off. Now this spacer does go back up on here when we put the new one up on there. I was trying to leave that just sit. It didn't want to. We're going to replace it with a 756-04224. These are OEM pulleys. Right. That up on there. Start our nut. Put our 14 back and back again. And tighten that back down. One down. This one proves to be a little bit more difficult because you cannot get to the top on here, and it is not a carriage bolt. Up underneath, right where your foot sits, on either side you've got a 7/16, and it is a carriage bolt. So you want to kind of push from above to take that washer and that nut off. Other side, same thing. Now, I wish we had a shortcut to all this. Unfortunately, on this one, there is not one. Above the tire on either side, you got 2 1/2-inch bolts. I'm going to use a swivel here and an extension to take those bolts off. All right. On this side, we got the same 2. The last 2 holding the cowling on are actually up underneath the sticker. There's one here and there's one here. They're 3/8 bolts. Many times you can take a razor blade and get up under it and pull it back far enough not to damage anything, but sometimes this stuff will just crack as you're doing it. So we're at the first one. Next side. Now the whole cowling is free. So we can get to the top side of the bolt down below. Always take the negative off before you do anything like this, because you've got your solenoid and everything right here. So if you move it the wrong way, you can potentially hit that positive against the frame somewhere and ground it out. You don't want to do that. All this was basically to get to the screw on top of this pulley. I usually like to just kind of jam something in and keep the frame up. Now we can see the nut there right on top of the pulley, so we can get our wrench to it and loosen it down below. Now we're just going to be holding the bolt here from the top side. Using our 9/16 down below. There's a washer above that one also. Put the washer back. To go above there for me. As we go to take the belt off here, we quickly notice, hey, this fan is completely broken. It's going to need replaced. I'm going to get that on order, and then also these tabs on either side for the belt keeper are also broken, and this plate's all bent up. We're going to have to order that also. As I'm going to order things, I remember this idler pulley bracket not seeming quite right when I tighten this down. And if you look here, this bracket should come down enough that it's keeping the belt on this pulley. It's not doing that in this case. We're gonna get an idler pulley bracket for this thing and replace it also. Well, we finally got our parts in. Got our idler bracket, fan for the hydro, and then the what they call the bracket for the belt support. To get this all installed. First thing, we'll get this battery out, get down there to that hydro fan. Oh yeah, that looks real nice. All that corrosion all over the battery, positive. Rough shape. Just kind of falling apart as I'm going. Grabbed a 3/8. It's just a little bit smaller than that 10. See if it'll grab on. That's what's left of it. I want to clean all that up before we put it back together. Down through the top we can see everything pretty good. Just pinch these battery holders out of here. Just turn and kind of pinch them together and they come right out. Just got little tabs on them. Same thing for the other side. These are in pretty bad shape, kind of worn out. And now we're at our fan and our belt and all that good stuff. We use our 3/4 inch to get down in there and get that nut off. I like to use the 3/8 adapter instead of a full 1/2 inch, just to give me a little extra room because that bar sits almost in the way. Pulley spinning down below. Grab onto it. Go. Many times it'll just spin right up off of there, but this does have a lock nut. Sometimes it wants to grab. And the belt's kind of out of the way anyway. Just finished taking it off. Let's take our fan and metal out.
Doesn't want to come off real easily. Definitely not in real hot shape. You can see where the pulley went up above and the belt was rubbing and burning against it. Throw some Kimball Midwest penetrating oil on it. Get it freed up a little bit. Kind of stuck on there. Up off of there now. It's one T25 bolt. That's all that holds it on. straight up. See how bent up that is? It's going to be almost impossible to get that off of there any other way. New one goes on. We'll blow that all out real quick first. One back down on there. Wonder why that, oh okay. Normally it does sit just below it, I guess. Take a rag, wipe all this off. See where my air hammer got it pretty good. You know which side's up. If you didn't use an air hammer, you can mark it. Otherwise, the flange part, the part with the spacer, goes to the top. As we put this back on here, we're going to put the belt on so it's already in the groove. Line everything up, put it down on there so our keepers are intact. Put a little anti-seize on there also, just for next time if we have it off, or whoever has it off, make it a little bit easier. Already doesn't want to come back off. Down in there now. This stuff thickens up real well after it dries for a second. Stays kind of liquidy to get down in anywhere you need it to go when you first spray it, which is great. So we've got our fan, we're trying to put it down in there. Well, guess what? It does not clear. The shaft comes up too far. So we've got to actually take this loose on one of the sides in order to bring it up a little bit to let us clear. Just above the left tire, we've got a little C-clip or E-clip. Take that off. And then we'll need to get this spacer or bushing pulled just a little bit out. If I remember right, I don't have to take this all the way out. I just got to take it a little bit so it'll pull out at the top side over to the right just enough. Pull this to the right, it comes out just enough to give us room to lift this as we're putting this fan in there. And then we can put this back in the bushing to the left. Now we've got our little spacer for the top. Nut back on. I'm going to hold that pulley in place while I do it, just to make sure that the belt or anything doesn't pop off. Kind of hard to reach down in there and get a good view at the same time. Now we're all good. This spins at the same time as the pulley. The belt's on everywhere and everything's tight. All of our keepers work. Still not perfect, but all right, nice and cleaned up. Battery keepers back in here. You just slide back in if you come in from the side. Same thing, we want to get that battery cleaned up. Couple new bolts and washers. I'm going to leave that negative still off until we get everything else hooked up down below. Keep her on. Back over on this side, I'm just going to basically push this straight back in. There's a bunch of play on this. You can go ahead and replace it while you're here. Not an exactly important part not to have a lot of play. Next, we're going to worry about replacing this idler arm and getting it all fixed up before we do any more routing with the belt. You can see that there's a bolt directly back beyond the steering column here, and that's the bolt head that you're going to hold on to while you're removing the nut down below. So this is the nut at the bottom side, opposite that, and there is a spring attached here that goes all the way to the back. I don't worry about taking that off if we're going to take the idler arm off. No reason to. But come up here and let's take this pin off where that connects to the idler arm. Push the arm out, and it is under spring tension, so be careful when you do that. Now that we got that off, there's hardly any tension on our spring, just a tiny bit. We're still not going to worry about it at all. We're just going to go ahead and take this nut off, and the whole arm will come down with it. Nut is off. We got a spacer, a bushing, and everything comes straight down. I'll make sure that bushing goes back to where it's supposed to be when you're done with it, which is just like such. But again, I didn't really have to mess with this spring. I'm just going to take it off of there, and we're all free. So we've got all this. We'll take this bushing out. Go ahead and clean it up real quick. It doesn't look real bad, but the less in there, the better. It's got a little bit of rust and such, as they will over time. If it's real worn around the edge here, or anywhere along here, you want to just replace that instead of trying to fix it. Put a little bit of grease. Keep friction from happening. That's not a little bit, that's a lot, but we're going to just pick this one up. Same orientation, and we're going to take this straight out and put it right in the other one, just as it was. And then we'll take this out and do the same thing here. So again, you can see how this is sitting with that way out over here where it's not keeping anything. And watch once we put that on the new one. Way closer here. Still honestly not exactly as I thought it'd be. I thought it'd be able to keep way further down, but apparently it's not. You can see the difference in angles is a lot different. So I'm glad we replaced that anyway, even though that still doesn't seem quite right to me. After thinking about this for a second, I looked at the diagram and realized that this is definitely backwards. Thought, man, that's got to be keeping that on there. Never seen one that doesn't. So this pulley, as it was originally installed, was either installed backwards or I reinstalled it backwards afterwards. It should sit like that with that spacer and then this like this. I have to go back through and see which it was, whether it was my mistake or another mistake. But I'm going to leave this loose because we're going to want to get that belt back in there once we get that up on there. Now it's actually ready to be reinstalled. Put that up on there. After we get our spring installed, spring just comes down and through just like such. Pull this out as you line everything up. Get that started. Get your finger off the backside. And I had my wrench just kind of jammed in up top so I could tighten against it. Came right out afterwards. Perfect. Now this is just going to come and you're going to have to pull it back this way against that spring tension in order to get it back in the groove. So again, we're pulling this whole thing. You can use the pulley as leverage over here. Back. And we're locking it in, just like such. put our keeper on the other side. Little pin. Guess maybe we have to come through the top side like it was. Now I've still got the original belt on right here, so I'm going to take this off with my 3/8, and that's going to allow the original belt to get out of our way here. We'll run our new belt through that same area and up top here. So it's going to be in between these two just like that one was. Keeps it in spot. Tighten it back down. On this other side, we have the same thing. We have a 3/8 bolt spacer and washer. And that's where this belt is supposed to go on at. And then it's supposed to come to the other side here and go up under this keeper. We can put this keeper back on now. Perfect. I'm going to come put this on the back side. It goes about like such. I'm going to tighten this other idler down. It's good. Now that keeper is actually keeping that belt on there. Perfect. As we go to finish everything else off here, I notice the root cause of our problem, or at least part of the cause of our problem. This stick jammed up in here. It's all burnt by the belt while we put this pulley back on. That shouldn't be in there, that's for sure. Anti-seize. Got our spacer and our pulley going back on. Hit that brake, give you a little bit more room to work with the belt. And you can get it on around the PTO pulley. Wanted to get a little better view as we did this. Make sure that your belts go on the inside of these keepers on either side as it's going up on there. This guard being on the other side would have worked out a little better. It'll still work here though. There we go. Inside of either one of those keepers. And up on there. And tighten down our 5/8 at the front. How exactly the belt goes, how it all should look as we go back on either side. Exactly where it goes through. Just going to blow all the rest of this off, get all the debris out, especially down and around here. Now we're just going to line everything back up. Once you have everything in line, if you look at your bolt holes down here, you should be able to see that bolt hole perfectly. If you can't, everything's not like it should be. Got our 2 here, one on either side. I'm not going to tighten either one of those until I get both of them started. That's kind of my way of making sure everything's 100% lined up. Yep, they're looking good. The 2 on the front here, where they line up, they've got to actually already be in the hole in order for all this to be back together. As long as these are lined up good. And I like to do the back ones. Throw just a little bit of glue down there where you can push on it real good. As long as you didn't get a bunch of dirt in it, it'll sit flat. And down here is all lined up. Started by hand. I'm going to start all 4 of them before I tighten anything down. Got our carriage bolts, 7/16. We will power wash this to finish everything up. I'm just going to blow all this residual off here. Back through. So we're going to grab the engagement spring and we're going to go under the bar and under the belt. We're going to come over and then we're going to go underneath the idler and hook right in. So just like such. And then you pull it back and get it into the notch at the backhand side. Once it's there like that, we can put our keeper in there. Put a pin in there. It's good to go. Now we can line up the arms, the hanger brackets. We'll lower the deck all the way down to do that. Just going to kind of lift this here, get it all lined up. Put our pin in there. I'm going to put a washer in there too. Washer just kind of helps these pins keep from breaking off. Gives you less side-to-side play also. Same thing over on this side. Just gonna line it all up. Washer it. Good to go. Now this here does not have a keeper for the belt. That's an issue. We're gonna need to put a keeper on there or else this belt's gonna keep throwing off. Apparently they haven't had any issues with it to date, but we're gonna put one on there anyway. We do keep these on hand. That's a 738-08510D-0637. Seems like they're always broken or missing. Just going to ensure that belt doesn't pop off of there. Last couple steps to get the deck belt back on. I'm going to move this keeper down and out of the way. Over that keeper and around our pulley. And we're going to bring it back over into our notch hole. Well, that's good. It is bent towards the back a little bit, but as long as it's not hitting the pulley, it's going to be perfectly fine. And then our front hanger bracket here. Deck's got to come forward a little bit. Also going to put a big old washer on there. And our last step before taking this thing for a test run is throw our battery negative back on. Let's see how this thing does. Well, there we have it, right? Nice and easy job created by a problem caused by a stick. Hopefully this helps somebody out get their drive belt replaced on their TB42 automatic Troy Bilt. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy the content.